So let's talk about the worst counsellors. Let's see if you've had any of these. So the first one is they talk about themselves. So you go in there with your problems and they're like, oh my God, that happened to me. Oh my gosh. You know my history. I've got to tell you what's happened to me. You're not going to believe it. And they go all on about themselves. The second one is they try to make you feel sorry for them. So they're like, oh, it's just been so hard lately. I've been so busy and I'm really sorry. I've been raced off my feet. So many complex clients. Not good. So they talk too much. So you go there and you're, planning for 2 weeks what you're going to say to your counsellor. You're feeling nervous, and all of a sudden the counsellor's like, oh my gosh, oh, anyhow, what I think you should do is this, and have you tried this, and you've really got to watch those thought patterns, and oh my gosh, we've got to do this, and you don't get to talk. So that's really, really, really hard. So another thing that counsellors do, and this one probably makes me the most upset, is that you have counsellors who are not trained in trauma therapy, and they get you blow by blow to tell them all about every single thing you've been through. So let's say there was a home invasion, or you found someone you loved passed away or dead of course. They get you to go through every single minute of that, it's just so wrong, because if they're not trained in trauma therapy, what they're doing is they're getting that information and they're flipping it straight over to the prefrontal. They're getting you to think about it, digest it. It's going into your neural networks. It's becoming active again. The next thing you know, it's in your limbic system. It's triggering your body. You're back like it just happened. You need help. You start to get stuck. You're reprocessing all that trauma, but you don't have an expert to help guide you out. So that's a very, very dangerous one. One that I find impossible to believe could actually happen, but I have heard of it happening, is when the counsellor actually puts you down. So let's say you're a woman and you've had an affair, you go to a marriage counsellor, you're sitting with her by yourself, and you say, hey, I had an affair. And the next thing you know, they're judging you and making you feel terrible, which is so bad, because the counsellor is supposed to make you feel amazing. Another one is that you feel disrespected. They may talk over you. They may have had too much coffee and not let you have a word. They may boss you around. They may sit there and be like, okay, yes, and you said that you were horrified and this happened to you, and okay. So many of them are watchers, which is not good. What if they sit there with you and you're telling them your most personal things you've never told anyone, and they're like, oh, yes. So some of them are yawning, looking disinterested. Some of them are bossing you around. So a terrible counsellor will say to you, you must do this. You should do this. Go home and do this. You need to kick that person out of your life. That's called advice. And advice is not what counsellors are supposed to be doing. The only exception to that, of course, is relationship therapy, where there's a little bit more structure. Even in addiction work, as it gets deeper, you might have some more structure. But a counsellor should never say to a client, oh, you need to go home and do this. Get rid of that person. Get rid of your husband. You need to stop drinking. They need to do harm minimization. It's working collaboratively. So what they may do is have you talking, and they may be talking around their computer. Tap, 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 which can make you feel really terrible. They may not be looking at you, so they may be looking away, and they may even be looking at you without smiling much. They may have no structure, so you just go there and they say, how was your week? And you just sit there and look at them and feel weird. Some counsellors don't like space, and space is actually a really good thing. So there might be an awkward pause, but it might be a time when you're about to say something and they jump in. So that's really showing how new they are to counselling. They may have no assessments. So you may turn up and you could be feeling suicidal and they would not know, because they are doing no assessments. They are just asking you about your week. Whereas 2 weeks ago, you could have had serious thoughts of self-harm or suicide. So another thing counsellors can do is give you no tools. So they're giving you no homework, no therapies to help you change, or they may give you too much and completely overwhelm you and give you like 10 handouts in the first session. Another thing a counsellor can do, which is not good, is get in the hole with you. So if you're struggling, not coping, everything's going wrong, and you're telling your counsellor, and they start to cry, and they start to feel overwhelmed, and they start to get really emotional, that is empathy, but that is too much. They're in the hole with you. A counsellor needs to be, here's the land, that you're in the hole with a problem. They need to be there trying to help you out of that hole. If they get in the hole with you, how can they help you out? Another thing that counsellors who need more experience and more training can do is triangulate with the client. So this is really important, particularly with parenting of teenagers and with addiction, but certainly with relationship therapy. If you've got a couple and that man's come to you and he's complaining about his wife and he's saying she's not connected enough, your job is to help him communicate better and help him connect. Triangulation would be if the counsellor turns around and says to the client, well, that's not good enough. You know, I can't believe you're going through this. This is absolutely terrible. That would feel shocking because that is causing a triangle. So it's the husband, the wife, and you, which is really not good. We don't want triangles happening. Another thing a counsellor can do who is inexperienced and inappropriate is they can cancel an appointment when they've got you all fired up, all ready to talk about your problems, and bang, they've cancelled with short notice. What they can do is think they're doing the right thing by making your session really long, and they're wearing you out and overwhelming you. So it's really, really important that a counsellor is watching your body, watching your breathing, watching everything, and pausing and allowing the space, the energy, everything to happen without making you overwhelmed. If you are doing trauma release, that is okay. If they are an expert with trauma release, meaning EMDR, brain spotting, somatic experiencing, or some somatic therapy. And I guess the last thing they could do is they could dismiss important points. Because let's imagine that your counsellor has not been trained adequately, has not had adequate supervision, and as you're talking, they're just focusing on one thing, and you're trying to talk, and they're like, wait. Oh, and they just jump in and comment on one particular thing you've said, but they missed 5 points. So I think it's really important that when you're working with a counsellor, this is not a friend, this is an expert. It can feel like a friend, and there can certainly be a loving energy, and I think that's really important. There can be empathy, there has to be a connection, but it's super, super important that your counsellor is someone you can trust, someone you can talk to about anything, because you're opening yourself wide up. And so you need someone who is present, someone who is mature, someone who is trained, someone who is registered with either PACFA in Australia or ACA if they are a counsellor, someone who has the respect to be able to keep you in that safe, cocooned place, talk about your issues, have the appropriate responses, be with you every second of that session. And when you leave, you should feel hope, and you should have strategies, and you should feel that little bit lighter and better. Good luck with your counselling.